I made over $5 million with my first Amazon FBA business, and it only cost me $250 to start. But still, this business ended up failing for a reason I'll talk about later in this video. And first, I'm gonna share with you my actual numbers, and I'm gonna completely share everything. My revenue numbers, all my expenses, and my final profit. I'm even gonna share with you what my first Amazon FBA product ever was, which I almost never talk about on this YouTube channel because, to be honest, I'm a little bit embarrassed. The second thing I'll share is how I did it, because even though I made a really big mistake, I still did something that I'm really proud of. I created a business that's done over $1 million in profit, and I did that while traveling and actually enjoying my life. And the third and most important thing I will share is all the mistakes I made with this business, including the one mistake that cost me over $1 million. And this is the biggest mistake I've ever made, at least when it comes to business or money. Let's get started first with the numbers. And this business has done over $1 million in sales on Amazon and close to $4 million in sales on our own website for a total of over $5 million in sales. But as you know, if you watch this channel, that number is revenue and not profit. And we're gonna go over all the expenses I had with this business. And we spent over $1 million in material to produce the products that we were selling for this company. We spent almost another $1.5 million for employees to actually manufacture these products that we were selling. And warning, this was one of the big mistakes we made with this business, is we actually manufactured all our own products ourselves, including we had to pay rent for a warehouse where we did all our manufacturing. And we've spent over $150,000 total in rent. We also spent over $200,000 in shipping. And this is a huge expense that a lot of people don't think about. If you're selling products on your own website, you're not only gonna have to pay for employees to package up the products, but you're also gonna have to pay money to the post office or FedEx for shipping. We also spent close to $300,000 in advertising to get people to come to our website, which is actually very difficult to do. And even when you get them to your website, a lot of times people don't trust your website, which is one of the reasons why we started selling on Amazon. There are some extra fees if you're gonna be selling on Amazon, including the Amazon selling fee. And we spent almost $200,000 on the 15% Amazon selling fee. And if you sell on Amazon's platform, they charge you a flat 15% of the total cost of the products that you're selling. In addition to that, if you decide to do the Amazon FBA program, and FBA stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, which I'll explain later in this video, there's another fee. They charge you the Amazon FBA pick and pack fee. And we spent over $150,000 on that fee. And this is the fee that you have to pay every time someone goes to Amazon's website, they buy your product, and Amazon has to pick, pack, and ship your products from their warehouse and send it to the customer. Now, a lot of people complain about this fee, but keep in mind, if you're selling on your own website, you still have to pay for shipping. In addition to that, you have to pay for employees to package up the products and ship them out. So this Amazon FBA pick and pack fee ends up being a lot cheaper than it would cost you to actually ship out the products yourself. And we spent another $182,000 in other random expenses. Things like paying for the LLC so we could run our business, which in California costs $800 every single year. Also gas money so that we can go pick up the materials that we use to produce our products, and a bunch of other random expenses like paying for the equipment that we use to actually make the products that we sell. And in total, this business has done over $1 million in profit. And yes, I was really able to start this business for less than $250. And I'm gonna explain how I did this and how you can do the same in just a minute. But the products that I was selling for this first Amazon FBA business was dance clothing. Things like dance shorts, dance pants, dance tops, and all types of different dance clothing. And before I started this online business, I had a corporate job that I absolutely hated. It felt like prison. Every morning when my alarm went off, I dreaded the idea of going into work because there was no incentive for me to work hard. If I worked my butt off at the end of the year, I'd get a 5% raise. And this idea that I was stuck in the rat race for the next 40 years of my life ended up leading to me getting really depressed until I read this book that showed me how you can easily build an online business that could make you $100,000 plus per year. You could then automate your business by hiring virtual assistants in the Philippines for $3 to $5 an hour to run your business for you, meaning that you could remove yourself from the business and spend your time doing the things you really want to do, but you'd keep making that passive income from your business. And when I told this to my coworkers, to my friends, and even my family, they all thought I was crazy. They told me that I can't do this, that it's not possible, and that 4 out of 5 businesses fail. So I stayed at my job, and every week that went by, I started becoming more and more depressed, until the idea of being a 9-to-5 drone started to become more scary than the idea of quitting my job and at least pursuing my dream. And when I realized this, I quit my job cold turkey, and I spent $99 on a DBA. And DBA stands for Doing Business As. And it's the first step to legally opening up a business, and it allows you to get things like a business bank account and allow you to accept checks in your business's name. Now later we did end up getting an LLC, which stands for Limited Liability Company, but to save money at first, we just did a DBA. I'll talk about the difference between these two later in the video. Then we bought a domain name for $15 for bylardancewear.com, but we ended up getting sued and we had to change our domain name. So warning, that's something I'll talk about later in this video. I also spent $29 on a Shopify website to make it easy to start our first online business. But if we wanted to save even more money, we could have started a WooCommerce website, which only costs around $4 to $5 a month. And we spent around $100 for the initial materials that we used to start producing the clothing that we were selling. And in total, it was less than $250 to start this business. Now, usually it would cost you closer to $4,000 to start your Amazon FBA business, because you'd have to pay for things like a sample for your product, which is going to cost you at least $50. You'd also have to pay for an initial production run, which would probably cost you about $3,500. You'd also have to pay another $150 to get your product shipped from your manufacturer overseas into the US Amazon FBA warehouse. And on top of that, there's a couple other expenses that I was able to avoid by using a trick that you can use as well to start your business with little to no money. And I've never talked about this trick on this YouTube channel, and I've never seen anybody else talk about this trick to starting your business for a little amount of money. But it was finally time to launch the business, and my goal was to make $100,000 within 6 months of quitting my job. And in our first year of starting to sell online, we did $38,000 in revenue and only around $12,000 in profit. And something that no one tells you is that when you quit your job cold turkey, go from making $80,000 a year down to only $6,000 a year, it's really stressful. And within the first week of me quitting my job, I actually had a complete nervous breakdown, a complete panic attack, and I had to check myself in to the emergency room. And the reason for that is when I quit my job, I had no map. I had no formula on how to create a successful online business. I was just shooting from the hip. And that led to a ton of stress, because my entire life, people have told me exactly what I need to do to get a good grade, to get into a good college, to make more money at my corporate job. But for the first time in my life, I was my own boss, and I didn't know which direction to go. Now things do get better, and this is where things start to get really interesting. In our second year ever, we did over $200,000 in sales with a total profit of $60,000, which sounds amazing, but something I haven't talked about yet is I actually partnered with my mom on this business. So that $60,000 in profit was actually only $30,000 for me. Since my mom had the idea for this business, she already had a lot of the equipment that we would need to use to make the products that we were going to be selling. So instead of paying for a big production run, every time we would get an order, we would go buy the material. My mom would then cut and sew the dance clothing, and we would ship it out. And then we'd take that money and we'd reinvest it in the business. And as we grew, we were able to start hiring employees to take over all the jobs that my mom didn't want to do. And in year 3, things started growing rapidly. We did over $400,000 in sales on our website and over $10,000 in sales on Amazon. But at this point, we were only selling using Amazon FBM. FBM stands for Fulfilled by Merchant, meaning that our products were for sale on Amazon's website, but when we would get an order with Amazon, we'd have to pick, pack, and ship the products ourselves. It took us 2 more years before we started selling using FBA, but when we did, our sales skyrocketed. And yes, in this 3rd year, we made $400,000 in revenue total, but we had to start hiring more employees, and we had to spend over $120,000 on all the employees that we had to hire. We also moved into our first production facility ever, and rent was $1,500 a month, and we had to pay over $7,000 in rent that year for a total profit of $121,000. but a lot of the money that we made as profit got reinvested into the business. And because of that, in year 4, I ended up moving back in with my parents, partially to save money, but mostly because our production facility was in my hometown. And at this point, I felt like a complete failure. My dad even told me, hey, maybe you shouldn't have quit your corporate job because you're not making a lot of money with this business. And to add on to that, in this year, we got sued. Our name was too close to one of our competitors, but it was actually one of the best things that could have happened to us. We changed our name from Bailar Dancewear to just bdancewear.com, which is simpler. And at this point, we finally filed for an LLC. An LLC stands for Limited Liability Company, and it gives you some more legal protection, but it is more expensive. So in total, in our 4th year, we did over $500,000 in sales, over $160,000 in profit, which means technically I was making as much money as I was back at my corporate job, but we were actually reinvesting a lot of this back into the business. So my take-home pay was less than $80,000, not to mention that I still wasn't making that $100,000 per year in passive income that I was hoping for. But in year 5, our Amazon sales exploded. We did over $100,000 in sales on Amazon. And the reason for this was we started using the Amazon FBA program, which when you send your products that you want to sell on Amazon into their warehouse, it makes it so those products are Prime eligible. And people are 5 times more likely to buy a Prime eligible product. So our sales exploded. And this money was relatively passive because our employees didn't have to pick, pack, and ship it. And it was around this time that I realized how easy it was to make money with Amazon FBA. I had worked extremely hard building our website, doing all the marketing to get traffic to our website. But with Amazon, all I had to do was list our products on their website and send the products into the warehouse, and they took care of the rest, which is when I realized the golden opportunity. The next year, I moved out of my parents' house and moved to my dream location of Santa Monica, and I started working on my very own Amazon FBA product. And this is where the story gets good. It was this year that I launched my first passion product on Amazon. And I talk about this all the time on this YouTube channel, but in my first year of selling this product, I did over $360,000 in sales, over $120,000 in profit. And this was actually passive income. All I had to do is when I saw my inventory getting low, I'd send an email to the manufacturer and tell them to send more products into the Amazon warehouse. I even eventually hired a virtual assistant for $3 an hour in the Philippines to take over that task for me. And that same year, BDancewear had a record year. We did over $700,000 in revenue, over $140,000 in profit. But at this point, now that I was making that $100,000 passive income per year, I stopped working on the dance clothing business and I automated my other Amazon FBA business, and I started traveling and doing all those things I've always wanted to do now that I had more free time. But despite me not working on either of these businesses, the sales kept going strong. Performance Nut Butter the next year did over $400,000 in sales, over $150,000 in profit. And BDancewear did over $600,000 in sales, over $100,000 in profit. And since then, BDancewear has done over $1 million in revenue, over $500,000 in profit. But the most important part of this video is coming up soon, so stay tuned. And in my eyes, BDancewear, my first Amazon FBA business ever, was a failure because I was never able to hit that $100,000 per year in passive income. But this failure ended up leading me to realize how big of an opportunity Amazon FBA was, which made me create my first passion product business, which did make me over $100,000 in passive income per year. And that's because I learned from this first business that I didn't want to sell thousands of different items. We had so many different products in so many different sizes in so many different colors, and it was a pain to keep track of all the inventory. Handling returns was a mess, and ultimately I realized that I wanted to sell just one product. And I realized that I didn't want to have to deal with employees, paying rent, or doing any of the manufacturing for my product myself. I'd rather pay someone else to do that. But maybe the most important thing I learned from this first business is I wanted to sell a product that I was actually passionate about, because surprise, I didn't care about dance clothing. I didn't know anything about dance clothing, and it made it very difficult for me to work on this business because I would have to do the marketing and I'd be writing an article, top 20 tips for dancers, when I've never danced and I don't know any tips for dancers. And this leads into the $1 million mistake I made. So please pay attention, because as I mentioned, this is probably the biggest mistake I've made in my life when it comes to business or money. And to explain this mistake, you need to understand that your first business might fail. But when you create your first online business, you start on the path to finding success, to start making that passive income. But the big mistake that I made that cost me well over $1 million, and the mistake that you're gonna wanna avoid, is when I started, I didn't have any kind of path to success. I thought I could just figure it out on my own, but I was lost. And this led me to when I first had quit my corporate job, every morning I would wake up with massive anxiety because I didn't know what to do next. And it wasn't until I started getting help from mentors and other people in the space that I started to have success. And you don't have to pay for this. I do have a free Amazon FBA course I'm gonna give to you right now. And what I recommend to you is if you wanna speed up your results, find someone that's already done what you're trying to do and learn from them. And I do have a paid mentorship program. There's information about that in the description. Or if you want my free 5-hour Amazon FBA course, you can click on this video right here and it'll show you step by step how to start your own successful Amazon FBA business so that you can start making passive income and live the life of your dreams. So click on that video. I'll see you in the next video. And thanks for watching.